Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon, and welcome to the first interview of our new Creator Spotlight series. We have Karos with us today, and the goal for these podcasts are going to be very simple. I want to give a voice to other creators who have been a part of my community, but in that same case, I just want to hear how they're doing, the strategies they have, just because I have my platform and other content creators have their platform doesn't mean that we all have the right answer for your situation. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to hear from people, larger creator, smaller creator, medium-sized creator. I think all of that doesn't matter. We're all creatives, and it's a really good opportunity to have that conversation. So, Karos, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm excited to have a conversation with you, but before we get into anything, I want you to just give us a little background. What is Karos Elite? And give us some background.
Karos Elite is so the first part, Karos, is I just kind of Googled Greek for Deathbringer because the idea was back in the day I played a lot of Call of Duty. I've been creating content for about 7 or 8 years going now. And when I first got started, the goal was Call of Duty mainly. Even though my first couple of videos weren't Call of Duty, I wanted to eventually get to that point. And so I thought of something short, something memorable, and something easy to spell. And that was kind of tried to make sure I captured all of that while also going for something that was a little on the cool side, a little on the bad of the bone side. But these days, every time I stream, things just get kind of goofy. So like the elite part's just kind of ironic, if nothing else.
Love it. Love it. So with that being said, content, how long have you been in the game? Was it a recent thing? Was there a reason you started? What was that motivation like?
I think I've always kind of chased some kind of creation in some way. Middle school was band. I was trumpet, first chair every time I got like competed against for second and third, or by second and third chair to surpass me and them take first chair. It was always kind of the element of competition was nice, but it was more so just, oh, we're all just making music together. This is fun. And then that became guitar, which then became a cheap little Sony action cam because I thought it would be better than a GoPro. Not true, at least not then. I don't know. Cameras change every day, especially action cams. But the main goal was just create stuff. I don't know. Cameras are very cool. The fact that I can plug this thing into my computer and it just is streaming live and can record things in super slow motion and make things look really cool is just kind of insane. And it always has been for the past 7 years.
Love it. 7 years, man. So
Yep.
what was that start? Was it Twitch? Was it YouTube?
Oh,
Was it
it was
OnlyFans
YouTube.
before OnlyFans was a thing?
It was YouTube, and then I dove into OnlyFans a little bit. You know, that didn't really go anywhere, so I thought I should stay in my lane, just stick to YouTube. You know, there was a short stint, but we all make mistakes.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So YouTube, do we stream on YouTube? Do we only make content? Yeah. Well, tell us about the content you make so we get a kind of a holistic approach right here.
Sure. So it's kind of it started as a gaming channel, gaming kind of exclusively, because that was all I had access to. And then the more I've gained access to, the more I've expanded it to be just I mean, it's not great for growth. I know. I'm fully aware of this. So like I don't do this full disclosure to necessarily make it a career. I just really enjoy it genuinely. So it's my strategy is not good for growth, but I do gaming, cooking, which tend to show up in the form of shorts or a really short video. Just try and keep it to the point as far as cooking goes. But and then just some vlogs here and there as well. But it's kind of like if I had to describe it in a short sentence, it would be a gamer who does other stuff.
Got it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So 7 years creating content. Let's say you had a short blow up tomorrow, right? And all of a sudden your channel just took off. And you said you're not doing this for the point of growth necessarily, but let's just say it fell in your lap, right? Because I think that's an interesting thought, because there's probably a lot of creators who might be either listening to this, watch this, whatever the case where they find it, who have that same point of like, I'm just passively doing it. I don't have an idea if I'm gonna make a career of it. You know, if it happened to you, what do you think your next steps would be?
Genuinely probably reinvest in an editor. If I had someone who could churn out the content in a well-packaged form, then Well, okay, I should say financially, if I had the ability to have someone churn out content that was packaged well, I can get it there. I just never really have the time. I'm currently
Yeah.
working 50 hours a week on a slow week, and so whenever I get a video out, it's because I had like a lot of time on a weekend to edit. And honestly, the live streams I feel like look like my videos because I've gotten to where I saved up for about 5-ish years for this camera that I'm using now, so that streams would look more like videos, with the goal of turning the stream content into a well edited summary, I guess, of what happened in the stream. And now there's 6 hours here, 6.5 hours there, 2.5 hours there of just footage that I just don't have time to go back through just yet. So currently, I'm probably more of a streamer that uploads shorts mainly. And then when I get time, I like to do videos. That's my bread and butter. But
Right.
time is of the essence.
Good. Okay. I think one of the big things that you just said is what I feel like a lot of people should focus on. A lot of people feel like it's that time of I blow up, right? And then it's that instant, well, I need to figure out how do I continue to reinvent that wheel. But what I loved what you said is something that I've had to do as well. I realized that I don't have time. And even when I was working full time, I wasn't, when I was doing teacher and all that stuff, it was the conversation of how do I free up more time to be as successful? And when finally making YouTube money, I was able to reinvest it into an editor. I loved that piece. And I think that that probably is one of the good investments early on. That being said, let's talk about editing for a second.
Mhm.
How did you, I think a lot of people also get stuck up on the why of creation is also the trouble of learning it. What did you do to learn to edit? Where do you edit? How do you edit? What was that path like for you?
So I use Adobe's suite, and that's probably the least cost-effective way of going about it. By the way, someone said in chat that I need to flip my camera. Do you know how I'll do that? Can Google Meet?
No, because mine's
Google Meet
backwards
easily?
too, man. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Well, I apologize to everyone at home, but I use the
Saver will
Adobe.
deal with it. He'll be fine.
Yeah, there we go. So I use Adobe suite of software, the Creative Cloud, which costs me currently about $50 a month, I think, which yearly is like 650, 700 something. Too much money.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's mostly just because of the ease of use between changing the audio. So like every time I bring stuff into Premiere, it's ran through Audition with all of the filters. And then I can take screenshots from Premiere, drop them into Photoshop and edit them for thumbnails, and or bring those into Lightroom to also bump up values and exposure and just contrast and everything. So the power of it is sort of worth the honestly just a ridiculous amount of money that's gone into it over the years. I mean, I've paid for Creative Cloud for I want to say about 6 years. I think I got about a year or two in before I finally was like, I need to be able to do more faster, because
Yes.
Windows Media Player, or whatever it was at the time, it was the
Movie Maker.
built-in Movie Maker. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Movie Maker was just not really like, it was doing it, but it was like, I want to do more with this. There are like things I want to do to this footage that is just not an option.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Have you tried any other services other than Adobe? I'm also an Adobe fanboy, so I would understand if you said no.
This year, I have considered DaVinci Resolve because it's free, or at least, it can be if you go about it the right way. And I want to. The only thing that stops me is the time, investing the time, that is, into learning nodes. Like, I know that it is node based. I don't know what that means or what that looks like, and that terrifies me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Because I think the two big names in the industry are Adobe and that, but you can get DaVinci Resolve for free or pay $300 for Studio for forever. And there is a lot of benefits to the paid version, but honestly, the benefits are not as huge as just using DaVinci. I am now a full DaVinci editor, but I still pay for Creative Cloud every single month because I'm still in Photoshop. I am still in Premiere because there is an AI plugin for podcasting that I can't get into in Resolve. So I still pay for that for one client to make sure I can do podcast edits like really quick. And, there's an investment piece, but Oh, that's crazy. So when you were first starting, knowing where you are now, because what you just mentioned was a lot of things, right? Bringing into Lightroom. If you don't know what Lightroom is, more of an HDR. It's more of a filmic editor that has to do with specific, you know, graphic editing, just single shot graphic editing, photography things, right? We're talking about high level editing. Let's think about when you first started to get into there and you're talking about the beginning creator. If you had to do it all over again, would you still go that route?
Probably not. I would almost definitely go DaVinci Resolve. I feel like if you were to start from a blank slate and just learned nodes and put up with it, it's, from what I understand, it's so powerful that it's ridiculous. I mean, it's got LUTs built in, or at least the option to apply LUTs, which is color grading for those at home that don't know. I brain farted on the word there, but I would definitely start DaVinci Resolve because it's free and because it just, you wouldn't even need to utilize all of it, but it's all there the moment you decide to jump in, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And what about when you're talking about photography? Have you ever considered any of the other free like graphic programs? Think of Photoshop replacements.
I Oh man, I used it for 2 years and I can't. GIMP.
GIMP.
Yes, I used GIMP for a while, and it when I used it, it was almost just janky enough that I was like, I just don't love this. Every time
Right.
I'd sit down to edit a photo, I was like, what's the text box gonna do today?
It's true. It's true. I agree. It's a lot better now. If we're talking about like 2018, 19, yeah, it's a much different program.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. And even with Resolve, by the way, if I want to curb something, I've been fully editing in it. I've never touched a single node
Oh
since
wow.
I've been editing. Yes. I have genuinely just left all of that alone. I'm sure I'm leaving a lot untouched, right? But I haven't touched a single one. And I've literally just do it in the edit page, which is the same timeline as Premiere. And, I don't have to go to Audition because there's the Fairlight page. I don't have to go out to do any crazy color grading in Resolve and bring it back to Premiere because the color grading panel is there.
Right.
I haven't had any issues. Now, sure, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff, but all of my videos have been in Resolve and I've never had a problem with messing around. I will say I changed every keybind to Premiere's keybinds.
Okay.
So I
that
never
makes sense.
had, you actually in Resolve, it says, were you a user of Final Cut or were you a user of Premiere? And then it'll change all of the keybinds to map to that
Wow.
platform, which is really cool. They know
That's
their market.
I was gonna say it feels a little bit like Black Magic. That's the parent company, yes, for DaVinci Resolve,
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, totally.
It feels a little bit like Black Magic is like, we know you're here for the better experience, but we understand you're familiar with where you're coming from. So
Yes.
we'll adopt ourselves to be more familiar for you if you'd like.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. I think it's worth it. And those of you who are listening or whatever the case, and you're like, yeah, but I don't have an expensive computer or a laptop or any of that stuff. The programs we just mentioned are usually Mac or PC based. Linux can support DaVinci Resolve, but you can also use things like CapCut. CapCut is a free one you can use on your phone. It is very limited in comparison to the things that Karos just mentioned and I mentioned, but it is an option and things that you can consider. So let's reframe back to content. Let's go back to what's your specific stuff. We started making gaming content. We've kind of went more variety. It's any kind of content that comes across your channel that you're thinking. By the way, your cooking shorts, love them.
Thank you.
I think that it's a really cool framing and it looks like it actually hits on your channel, which is awesome. So let's talk about idea conception. When you come to think about making a video, sure, you're time constraint, you're streaming and then creating content, but what does that ideation look like? Do you just go, that's a cool video idea? What do you do?
Typically, if I think it's cool or interesting, I just kind of assume there's at least one other individual out there that will agree. And if not, then I'm just glad I got to make a thing and just put it somewhere that I can show family and be like, hey, I worked hard on this. Does it bore you? And then when it doesn't, success.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, good. So that you don't go to like I do SEO research and deep into trends things.
Not even a little bit. That might reflect in my growth or lack thereof, but I also just kind of take in the Temu video that kind of popped off for me a little bit ago was my wife. She shopped on Temu a lot, and She we were just laying there. She was shopping. She was like, "You should just buy some stuff on here and just open it because some of this stuff looks concerning in a good way, like in an interesting kind of funny way." So I ordered a bunch of stuff, recorded it, and then unboxed it. And yeah, some of it is definitely I can I can show one of the things that was purchased.
Please describe it for those who listen by audio too.
He's he's my little friend, and he's just squishy. He's just
It's
real
a
squishy.
squishy phallic creature.
Yes. I don't know what to call him. So if anyone has ideas for names in the comments or in the chat, let me know.
Oh
He
my
has not had a
gosh.
name in the 7 months that he's lived on my desk.
That is crazy.
But yeah, that was one of those video ideas where my sister-in-law, her sister, overheard us talking about me recording it, and she said, "Oh, let me know when that's up. That's something I would actually watch." So then it's just if she comes up with it, odds are someone else would want to. So it's like now I feel like I have 2 points of thinking. I've got my like gamer brain and her like more, day in the life kind of typical video, maybe, I guess more
Sure.
so, as opposed to being deep in the gaming side of things.
Right. Do you think that it was when you started relaxing and posting content that wasn't just gaming, do you think it was a positive thing or a negative thing for your channel to pivot?
I think for me, it was a positive thing. It let me show anyone that was watching a little more of like, hey, if you enjoy just me doing things and me in the way that I do things, then great. But I think for the algorithm, it probably made YouTube go, ew, this is not what you normally do.
I mean, yeah.
For better or worse. I mean, I know realistically it's not what YouTube will want to serve, I guess, but I'm either just gonna do it and hope it goes somewhere, or I'm gonna keep doing it and YouTube's gonna keep smacking me down and I'll just keep coming back because I'm a glutton for punishment.
I love it. I think there's something we should probably reframe on how because I think the content. Well, hold on, let me back up. I've been doing these lives, right? Come in, show me your content. Let's talk about it. Here's some ways to improve, right? We're talking about YouTube. Here's the ways to grow. And I love this conversation. But I think we might also be missing the side of it's not always about how do I make sure that YouTube loves my content. We also have to remember that you're a creative and a person, and sometimes you're just telling the story. And even if it gets 10 million views or 10 views, you're still telling a story most of the time. Whether it's the audience that size that you expect, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's just about creating the content. And there can be those robotic moments where it's just like, I have to create this piece of content because this is just what YouTube expects, right? When it comes to what you're doing, it sounds like you're not at that point. You're creating the content that you want to create. And I think that's a very precious thing that you don't need to lose. So let me ask that question. Have you ever released content that you were like, oh, this isn't good? But you knew you had to have a piece of content out. What does that feel like if you've done that before?
Honestly, I haven't, mostly because, by the way, it glitched out a little bit. Are you hearing and seeing me okay?
I am. Yeah, it's just kind of the benefits and failures of Google Meet.
Okay. I just want to make sure before I went into my little speech. But
yeah, sure.
I feel like anytime I've had something that was bad, I mostly just checked with whoever was in my life at the time and just said, hey, what about this could be better before it ever went up? And it's a little bit about making sure whatever goes on the channel is like worthy or not in like my personal opinion, not even necessarily to an audience of any kind. Because I mean, I was stuck at 11 subscribers, I think literally for 3 years. So I knew that there weren't many, if any, watching. So it was more just if anyone ever goes back, I want them to know that from the beginning, I was at least trying and that I held myself to a certain standard just because I always have, but I never. It's interesting. I've always held myself to a certain standard while never expecting or requiring that of others because I think realistically, I know how unfair it is, low key.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things. It's some days a live stream will be a little lazy, but most of the time I'm like, if I'm going live, I'm going to do the thing.
Yeah. Well, there's the intention of it. You've set up all that stuff, all this equipment, the time investment. If you're just going to sit down and just, half do it, it's kind of like a throw in the face to your past self in preparation of that. I feel that when I go live, I want to be on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. If I'm going to ask people to invest time in me, I would hope that I could invest time in them with as much enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that. And I think also when we talk about the content and where we are and the growth that has possibly stagnated in the level of expectation you've had for yourself, we also have to remember that I can't control if you click my video. I can't control if you click the subscribe button. I can't control if you click the comment button. But what I can control is the content that I produce, the story that I tell, how I do it, what I tend to create with it, and, the psychology that I put into it to help you click it. That's all I can control, and you can control as the creator. The joy is seeing those numbers increase regardless of how rapid or not you might consider it. It's seeing that they're going up, and I think that's what's impressive, right? So let's ask. I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then we're going to kind of flip it around, and then we can have you, if you have anything you want to ask me. One more question I want to ask you, tech-wise. I am a tech freak. I think everyone should figure this out at this point. Tell me about your setup, because that looks like a Sigma 30mm lens.
It is a Tamron 28 to
75 full frame.
Yes, 28 to 75 full frame. Yes,
love it.
Running it through the A7C Mark II.
Oh, it's such a good camera.
I saved up for 5 years, like I said, for the A7C, and then about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I started hearing rumblings in the camera community of a sequel to the camera, and I was like, I've waited this long. I can wait one more year for like those final tweaks and improvements that I wanted. And I mean, this thing basically has all of them.
Yeah. And those of you who are like real tech minded, you'll know that that's the sensor from the A7 IV that gets you 4K 60 with a crop, but it gets you 4K 60, uncropped 4K 30, gorgeous 33 megapixel sensor. I mean, fantastic. Are you using that 28 all the way out at 28, or do you have it zoomed in a little bit?
No, currently I'm somewhere between 30 and I'm probably like 35, 33 maybe. I'm punched in a bit. I wanted to get to 50, but then it was like the frame was like just all face. I was like, this is a little close.
Yeah, I could tell like my Sigma 30mm, which is that equivalent, that round 45-ish. That's the view, that perspective. I was like, oh, I know that shot.
Oh yeah.
Man, it looks so good. It's so solid.
Thank you.
Have you done any kind of professional work with that lens, or is it just for content for what you got?
Actually, last week, for what I do for work for 50 hours a week, I offered up creating their YouTube channel and generating content for it, not for social media growth, but literally just for training purposes. And I am about probably 15-ish hours into editing one of their videos, only because I got to do it on the clock. So like technically speaking, this past Monday was, I think, the first time ever I've done editing like
for somebody,
like literally getting an active paycheck for it, which was pretty cool.
That is crazy good.
I was glad they let me do that, because I've also been running they do live stream training videos. So like I've been running the tech side of that and making sure the audio levels are good and checking when everyone's in the chat and ready to go, because everyone's coming in from like different parts of the state and stuff. So it's all of that has been like, I'm getting to do this and getting paid. This is kind of awesome.
That's so cool. Hey, in that same case, I don't want you to dox yourself, please don't. But what kind of stuff do you do? Can you tell me your title? What's your day to day?
Sure. Day to day is technically I'm kind of like an analyst for lights. I just kind of make sure that they are in working order, and if they're not, I figure out why, and then I send a crew out, so to speak, to fix them. And before that, within the same company, I was just looking at power poles and just telling electric companies what's wrong with them. Right.
Okay. But then now on the clock doing social media work, that's pretty awesome. But even though it's training, but
right. I basically just went to the person that, is sort of over the company because it's on the smaller side, small enough that I was able to go to the owner. I mean, I don't know many people that can do that. I'm in a fortunate position when it comes to that. I just said, hey, here, I had this idea. Because when I first started in this business, someone pointed at the top of a power pole and told me what was up there and pointed at one thing. And I was like, this just all looks like wires. I don't know what any of this is.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, it would be good to have someone stand in front of a camera, point it all out, and then I just break it down in editing with the graphics and point everything out, and just a better representation that you can actually see what it is we're talking about. And then also just all of the pieces of equipment that are involved in the job that we do.
Yeah. That's crazy. But in that same case, just imagine, I think this lends itself to the point of being a creator and doing YouTube is not just YouTube as a title, right? It's one job that's, in the case of what you were doing, that's a train for this position. This is the job that you'll be completing. Audio work, visual, editing, production quality, story writing, storyboarding. There's so many jobs that are all conglomerate to create what we do on YouTube, right? It's just so cool that, I'm helping with live streaming. I'll check your audio levels and your stream stuff. Oh, we want to do some training stuff. Oh yeah. I've already got this really expensive camera I bought to do some YouTube stuff with. Like, that's so cool. And I think a lot of other creators could probably, if they thought of their job or what they're doing on YouTube as a career piece, they could really position themselves and make some extra dough, or even reposition themselves in the company they work with, like what you're doing.
It was sort of that, like, I just thought they're going to tell me realistically that they don't want to invest the time in it. And if they do, so be it. And if they don't want to, they don't want to. But I knew that I had just enough to offer that them paying me hourly to do it, I wouldn't let myself produce something that was less than at least decent.
Right. Good for you. That is awesome, man.
Thank you.
Hopefully that flourishes itself into something a lot bigger. I love that. Would you take a job if they came to you and were like, can you just take over a YouTube and be a social media marketing person?
Oh, absolutely. I would spend every day of the week working on every video or training, anything that they wanted.
I love it. Hopefully that comes true for you. All right. One more question. And then I'm going to ask the chat. There's some things that have happened in chat I want to ask. By the way, chat, if you want to ask Karos anything specifically, we'll have a opportunity for a couple questions. But here's one that I want to ask. Is there anything that you would say if they were on the fence of getting into creator, there's someone who might be trying to hang it up or whatever the case? What's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who might be on that fence of, do I start creating or continue creating? What's that advice you got?
It's a little basic and I've heard it a lot. But I probably keep hearing it because it's true, and it's just to do it because you want to. Because like I said, I had 11 subscribers. I don't have hardly any now, to be clear, but I had 11 subscribers for 2 years. So I was just making stuff, and the 10 random people and my mom were who was watching. And that was enough, because I was just like, I'm making stuff. That's what I want to do. That's what I like to do. And if it crashes and burns and just starts falling back down to 11 out of nowhere, oh well, I'll still have fun making stuff that I think is funny or cool to watch.
I love that. And not at any time during this podcast have we even mentioned subscribers, followers, nothing like that. I don't think it's important. You mentioned it like that was where you were at that one time, but I don't think that number really changes the fact of what you do as a creator. Sure. I think tomorrow you could gain 1 million subscribers. It wouldn't change other than what your profile looks like, what you're going to do as a creator. And you might come at it a different way, but I don't think they literally followed you because of the content you've already produced, not the content that you're going to produce. And I think that's also a mindset you got to have. All right, cool. Something for chat. What's your favorite equipment for you to use for YouTube content?
Probably the camera. I like to do photography just here and there. Like if I catch a good shot, just here and there. Like I took, let me see if I can get it to, my sleep alarm is on, so it's not showing up. But I took a picture of the Grand Canyon, and it is my phone wallpaper because I was just that proud of it. I was like, this just looks really good. And so I probably would say the camera. It lets me have live stream and video call qualities that looks like a video would. So it's definitely the camera. That's like probably the main reason I even do this, honestly.
Totally. And just somebody asked earlier, what was the camera spec? A7C Mark II, Tamron 28 to 75, f2.8.
Yes.
Okay. Gosh, I'm such a nerd. All right. I think if I didn't go further back, I didn't see anything specifically there. So I was talking about Adobe stuff. Okay, let's wrap up with this. If you were to, what's your favorite Pokemon? Yeah, you gotta have a favorite Pokemon.
Lugia.
Lugia.
Yes, sir. Yours?
I was always a Bulbasaur fan.
That's
but in so ways, like this, my starter was just up on the screen behind me. Squirtle.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of Bulbasaur being like the underdog, but Squirtle was my first starter. Squirtle and the whole roll through Blastoise.
Oh, Blastoise just looks so cool.
Goated. The cannons, man.
Absolutely.
The cannons. All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Do you feel good about this?
So good. Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Yes.
How do they, if someone wanted to find you and they're not watching this and they're listening to it somewhere, how do they find you?
Just search Karos Elite on YouTube, and it is not the volleyball channel. I'm in a hot rivalry with a women's volleyball channel and some guy that plays a game called Karos Elite.
Nice.
I didn't know this, but there is I think an all Spanish speaking game, or it's a Spanish developed game called Karos, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's neither of those. You'll find the logo. If you find my hat on YouTube, you'll know you're in the right place.
Yep. It's at Karos Elite on YouTube. Streams on YouTube, makes content over there. Please go check him out. Thank you so much for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a good time.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one, guys. Karos, thank you, sir. I'm gonna end the call here, and we'll go on to the next interviewee.
And stay humble.
Stay frosty. I love it.